Hi, this tutorial is the first in a series, so we're going to cover all the basics, logging in, working with projects, we're going to look at an overview of the editing screen, and we're going to go ahead and create our first scribe. And it really is just covering the basics and giving you a foundation to build on. If those topics sound boring to you, skip ahead, there's other tutorials, but this one really sets the groundwork and the foundation. You might hear the occasional car in the background or a lamb. We're based in a little barn just outside Bristol in a place called Tickenham, and we're a small team here, and hopefully this tutorial will be quite relaxed and informal and give you a chance just to really understand how VideoScribe works. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. If you don't have an account, you can create one through the website, or you can create one here and then upgrade to Pro. And we have a 7-day trial which has absolutely no obligation. So now I'm logged in, I get to see the scribes that I've already created. Now when you first go into VideoScribe, you'll just have one project, the example project, but each one of these projects are separate scribes, and they're each one is like a separate video or a separate presentation that I've worked on. Now I've cleared it all down so that we don't have too many and it doesn't get too confusing. But you'll find that over time you'll build up more and more scribes in here, and you can scroll through them using these scroll arrows. And there's an alternate view, if you prefer, of seeing them laid out like cards, where you can move through the different projects, and each project there is like a file, if you like. So I'm going to go back to the grid view. Now one thing that's worth keeping an eye on is the version number. So if I click the VideoScribe logo here, you'll see that it gives me the version number that I'm working on. Now the version you're looking at will probably be more up to date than this by the time you get to see the tutorial. So some of the screens may change a little, they might be slightly different, but the concepts and the fundamental principles and how the product works is not going to change. It's also worth noting that there's a support site that has a lot of information, tips. The blog there is updated almost daily with inspiration and frequently asked questions and support issues. So it's a page you might want to bookmark. So when I'm in this screen, I've got two choices really. I can either edit a scribe, or I can create a new scribe with this button here. So I click Create New Scribe, the plus button here, and there we have the editing screen. So this is where we're going to do all our editing of scribes. We're going to create our scribe in this, and in this central area we have a blank large piece of paper. Imagine it being an infinite piece of paper. It's not quite infinite, but it's huge, and we can lay out our elements on this. Now an element might be an image, or it might be a piece of text. So let's go ahead and add some elements to this canvas and just see how things work. So if I click on Add Image to the canvas, I get the image library here, and you can just browse through the images by going through the headings here. You'll see there's quite a large library, and then within each folder or category here, there's quite a lot of images in there. And this image library is growing and changing all the time. Updates will automatically come down for this, and it's just a base set of images. You can bring in your own images, and you can search the internet for images, but this kind of gives you a foundation or a starting point. You can also search the library. So if I type in sad and click enter, then I get images that relate to being sad. If I type in happy, I get images that have been tagged with happy. So I'm just going to pick this lady here. She looks nice and happy, and it brings the element in to my canvas here, and it's selected. So I know it's selected two ways. One is that I get these lovely purple nodes around my object, and the other is that in my events list down here I can see the properties for this selected element. Now we'll go through what the properties all mean and how they work in a moment, but if I click off onto the canvas, you'll see that she's no longer selected, and I can select her two ways. I can either click the item up here, or I can click her down in the properties. Now this is really useful when you're layering lots of images on top of one another. In order to get to this image, it can be quite tricky, but if you go down to your events list here and click, then you'll select that item. Now I'm going to add a piece of text in, so I'm happy with today. There we go. And I click that, and that text has been added in to the canvas. So I now in my events list have two items. I have this lady and I have a piece of text. Now it's put that text right in the center of my current view, which is great, except that's not where I want it. So I'm going to pull it down here, and then I can use these nodes on the edge to resize the text. Okay, and then finally I'm going to add a speech bubble around that. So I go back to my image library, and this time I'm going to write, in fact I'm going to look through the callouts. I'm not going to search for speech, which you could do, and we've got a few speech bubbles in there. I never really seem to be able to find the one that I want. I think we'll use this one. Okay, so I literally just click and drag it to move it around, and I can use these edge ones to expand it a little. Now, what you'll immediately notice is that this has a white fill, and therefore the text behind is no longer showing. So on my properties I have these little arrow buttons, and what these do is move the events around so that I can move this event to happen before the text event. So if I click that, then I now get the speech bubble behind the text. So when it's drawn, the lady will be drawn first, then the speech bubble, and then the text I'm happy with today. Now it doesn't really look like she's saying it because it's coming from down here. So if I select the speech bubble, oh, that sounds like a delivery. Don't know if you can hear the, oh, we have the rubbish being collected. Perfect. So if I rotate the item here, then you'll see that every time I click it, it rotates a different way until I get back to the start position. So I want to rotate it all the way around to there, and then I'm going to move it up, squash it a bit, move it up a bit more. Okay, that's marvellous. Then I'm going to go back, select the lady, move her over here, make her a lot bigger. Excellent, that's how I wanted it to look. Okay, and then finally I'm going to select the text, and instead of having it in this basic font, I'm going to change the font. So the property here lists all the available fonts. Now at the moment it's just 3 or so fonts. So I'm going to go to Outline. I think having the rubbish collection truck in the background adds a bit of atmosphere here. Right, let's move that down. There we go. Great, so that is my scribe, my first scribe. It's going to take 30 seconds to draw in total. You'll see here down in the properties. And if I click play, then we get the result. Now when you're previewing, you may find that sitting and waiting for an element to be drawn all the way takes too long, so you can skip forward onto the next element and it just moves straight on. Great, perfect. So the last thing I'm going to do in this initial tutorial is just save the scribe so we can work on it in the next one. So I click the green ribbon here, and it expands out and gives me the opportunity to name and save the scribe. So I'm going to call this Happy with Today. I'm going to click Save and Close. Now the other options here we have save as a new copy. So if I'd saved this before, I can sort of create different versions of it. I could delete it if it already existed, or I could just go back to the home screen without saving the changes. So I'm going to click Save and Close, and there you'll see that now appears on my list of available scribes. So in the next tutorial we'll go a lot more into the properties. We'll look at adding music and working with sound, and we'll go into things in a lot more detail. I hope you found that useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session.